Someone asks how you're doing, and you say fine. You're not fine. You haven't been fine for a while, but something in you closes, quietly, completely, and the words that need to come out just don't. And the harder someone pushes, the further in you go. If you've ever watched yourself go silent in the middle of something painful, not because you had nothing to say, but because something shut down before the words could form, this video is for you. What's happening inside you in those moments is not weakness. It is not coldness. And it is not a communication problem. It is your nervous system doing something it learned to do a very long time ago. And today, we need to talk about what that actually is. In psychology, going quiet when you're hurt is not avoidance. It is not the silent treatment. And it is not a choice made in the moment. At least not the kind of choice that willpower can override. It is what researchers call a dorsal vagal shutdown, a state the nervous system enters when emotional pain reaches an overwhelming threshold and the body determines that neither fighting nor fleeing is available. The nervous system, your nervous system, doesn't make this decision consciously. It makes it automatically to protect you. To understand why, you need to understand how the autonomic nervous system responds to threat. Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory, Polyvagal, describes 3 levels of response. The first is social engagement. You're calm, regulated, able to say, "What you said hurt me." The second is fight or flight. Your heart rate climbs, your voice rises, you argue or leave. But the third, the deepest and most ancient, is shut down. When the pain is too intense, when the nervous system decides that speaking will make it worse, it does something remarkable. It goes still. Heart rate drops, muscles tighten, and most critically, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for language and logic, temporarily disconnects from the emotional centers. Language gets locked, not because you have nothing to say, but because the system that turns feeling into words has gone offline. This is why pushing someone who has gone quiet almost always makes it worse. When you follow them from room to room demanding an answer, you are asking someone whose language system has gone offline to speak. The pressure doesn't open them. It confirms the threat, and they go further in. But where does this pattern come from? For most people, especially those sitting with this right now, the answer begins earlier than the relationship you're in today. Much earlier. Attachment researchers have shown that children who grow up in homes where emotional expression was met with dismissal, punishment, or simply silence in return, learn a devastating equation. Showing pain equals losing love. And so they do what any intelligent nervous system does in that environment. They stop showing it. They build what looks from the outside like composure and feels from the inside like a locked room with no key. Years later, that locked room activates automatically. Not because you decided to shut down, but because your body remembers. Every time pain reaches a certain level, the old program runs. The silence is not distance. It is the nervous system doing the only thing it learned to do, to keep you safe. And here is where the church has often missed something important. Many Christians who struggle with emotional shutdown were formed in environments, homes, churches, communities, where the expected answer to "how are you" was always fine. Where vulnerability was framed as lack of faith, where crying was seen as weakness and emotional need was quietly spiritualized away. The message received, even when no one said it directly, was that the composed person is the faithful person, and so the shutdown got a theological layer placed on top of it. It wasn't just survival, it became identity. But Jesus, in the shortest verse in all of Scripture, John 11:35, did not say, "I'm fine." He wept, publicly, in front of people, at a tomb, without explanation or apology. The God of the universe allowed himself to be seen in grief. That is not weakness performing as strength. That is what it actually looks like to be present in pain. If this is naming something you've lived with for a long time without words for it, subscribe to this channel. Every week I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith. I don't want you to miss what's coming. So what is actually happening inside someone who has gone quiet? Because from the outside, the silence looks empty. But from the inside, it is anything but. Neuroscientists describe what happens in emotional shutdown as overactivation of the default mode network, the brain's system for self-reflection and future prediction. When the shutdown activates, the mind doesn't stop, it accelerates. Thousands of questions collide at once. What did I do wrong? What did they mean? If I speak now, will it make this worse? Will they use this against me? The silence is not the absence of thought. It is a storm of thought with no exit through words. There is something else happening too. Many people who go quiet when hurt do it to protect the other person. They can feel, with remarkable precision, the weight of what they are carrying. They know that what is rising in them right now is not clean or careful. It is raw. And they have learned, sometimes through painful experience, that speaking from that place does damage. So they hold it, not to punish, to protect. The silence that looks like rejection is sometimes the most generous thing they have. And for those who grew up in homes where words were used as weapons, where anything expressed in vulnerability was later used against them, the shutdown has an additional layer. It is not just protection from what they might say. It is protection from what the other person might do with what they say. The nervous system that learned that speaking only makes things worse doesn't take chances. It locks the door. Every time. What does healing look like for someone who carries this pattern? It begins, not with being pushed to speak, but with experiencing something most people with this pattern have rarely felt. Safety inside silence. The knowledge that the pause will be respected. That going quiet will not be punished, or chased, or interpreted as rejection. When someone with this shutdown pattern experiences a relationship, human or divine, where their silence is met with presence rather than pressure, something begins to shift. The nervous system starts to revise its prediction. Maybe this is different. Maybe speaking here won't end the way it always ended before. This is not a quick process, but it is a real one. And it begins with one small thing: being honest about what actually happens when you're hurt. Not the edited version, not "I'm fine." The actual version, even if it starts in a journal, even if it starts in prayer, even if it starts with 3 words, "I shut down," that is the beginning. Because the silence was never really empty. It was always full of something that needed to be said. And the path forward is not learning to speak faster. It is learning, slowly, that speaking here, is finally safe. If what we've talked about today is something you want to go deeper with, I created a structured 7-day journey to help you calm your mind and begin working through the patterns your nervous system has been running on. It's called the 7-Day Guided Journey to Calm Your Mind. The link is in the description below. It's practical, it's gentle, and it's built for exactly this kind of inner work. Take the next step at your own pace. Subscribe to this channel. Every week I create content at the intersection of psychology and Christian faith, because your inner life matters, and you deserve the language to understand it. You are not alone in this.